Most men, especially conservative men, have no idea who women really are.
At the risk of creating a lot of alligator tears here, I don't think that matriarchy means what it means to a lot of you. Kind of like white feminism is different than feminism. It's not the same thing. White matriarchy is just patriarchy with women in power. Like, that's the problem that all of us have with white women. Because Rebecca from White Woman Whisperer a year ago had laid it out that white women are the bear. And y'all lost your collective minds. So now that there's this male loneliness epidemic and people are saying, well, men are creating a matriarchy, they are not. They're not. Because a matriarchy is a system in which the most vulnerable populations are put in the center to be protected. And everything within that society is made to benefit the most vulnerable. And white women, y'all are too racist, anti-black, transphobic, and ableist to be able to understand what matriarchy actually is. And you also don't know how to create community, because white supremacy dictates that everything is a competition, and matriarchy is not a competition. It is very anti-consumerism. It's working as a community, as a whole, so that everyone has their needs met. So this isn't like what's that DC Wonder Woman, where it's a whole bunch of Amazonian women that are like on an island by themselves. No. I think a lot of you need to do a lot of anti-black work and read books like They Were Her Property. There's a lot of Angela Davis, a lot of bell hooks, a lot of work by indigenous women who explain what matriarchy is, because indigenous tribes, for the most part, are matriarchal. So, I know a lot of you get very excited when you talk, oh, well, matriarchy is coming. No, I don't want what you want. I don't want that. No, because that's not good for us. Okay, bye.
Come, let's mix. We're Rockefellers, walk with sticks, we're umbrellas in the mix. Putting on the Ritz.
The irony is, I started that video about how white women don't understand the difference between their version of matriarchy and what matriarchy actually is, with, at the risk of causing a lot of alligator tears. And here you come, in my comment section, saying, I guess women can't come together. LMAO. Yeah, we can't. You want to know why? Because of women like you. Because of women like you. The reason white supremacy and patriarchy thrives as much as it does is because white women allow it to happen. You fully participate in it because it's to your advantage. And the reason why you fully participate in it is because you don't realize how much you're indoctrinated into it, number one, and you have main character syndrome. You have been told since infancy that, one, you deserve to be protected at all costs because you are just so innocent, and two, that you are special, more special than anyone else. You're not. Like, literally every single movie trope that's out there is white woman main character, and black woman sidekick. Even when it comes to movies like The Help. Just saviorism all over the place. Y'all are in competition with each other all the time. Like mother, daughter, friends that aren't really friends but are really enemies in disguise. Like, also, especially in the United States, you're Canadian, so like, but in the United States, do we really think that these white boys who are going around pew-pewing everything were just raised themselves? Or by their fathers? Really? Yeah, no. So, this passive-aggressive comment in which you completely ignore that white supremacy exists and that white women uphold it is just... Maybe try that on somebody else's page. But not here. Because it's not welcome. And you are the problem. Of course, this isn't bullying or harassing or anything like that. This is just for educational purposes. Thank you for playing. Please try again.
Okay, I'm back. I'm better when I answer this. Respectful question. Why is it so hard for white women to form a sisterhood community? Buckle up. So, there's a short answer to this and a long answer to this and a lot of nuance, but I'm going to give you my take. And here it is. White women have a really hard time forming a sisterhood community because we don't trust each other. And we don't trust each other because we treat each other the way that we treat black women when black women are not around. And I'm going to explain that. So here's the thing about whiteness. Whiteness, like, this is how I conceptualize it. Whiteness is a fractal, right? So a fractal is a shape that is the same at large scale as it is at small scale. Tree, branch, twig. That's a fractal. Whiteness works the same way. Whiteness structures itself the same way in the nation that it does in the community, that it does in the family. And that happens because whiteness, to me anyway, is a set of values, not necessarily a set of beliefs. And I'm talking about whiteness as like distinct from white supremacy. This is just like, this is the value system that kind of our country is based on, kind of a lot of us were raised with. And it's not predicated on belief. You can change your beliefs and still be in the value system of whiteness. So this is just how I conceptualize it to myself. So the thing that whiteness, one of the things that whiteness values a lot is hierarchy. And it's a very specific kind of toxic hierarchy where all of the good stuff goes up and all of the bad stuff goes down. So the higher you are in the hierarchy, the more benefit of the doubt you get, the more accommodations you receive, the more people are willing to like humor you, the more power you get, whether it's political, social, monetary power. Just the more protection and status you have. The lower you are in the hierarchy, the more you get shit on. The lower you are on the hierarchy, the less respect you're entitled to, the less care, the less concern. And the people lower down on the hierarchy are also the receptors of a lot of redirected negative emotions from the people higher on the hierarchy. And for example, people who are born in the white women box are heavily socialized to redirect their anger away from the people above them and down to the people below them, right? That's why you'll see a white woman who got cheated on her husband go into a store and make a cashier cry, right? Who got cheated on her husband? Blech. Or like a white woman who like got yelled at by her boss, goes home and shits all over her kids, right? Because white women are heavily socialized to redirect that anger downward. And the thing is, that hierarchy exists no matter who's there. So as soon as a black woman comes in, she's automatically at the bottom of the hierarchy and she gets all the shit. But if there are no black women or whatever, or like other people who are lower on the hierarchy, then white women will do it to each other. Every white woman I know has a story of being abandoned, abused, exploited, like, by a white woman she considers as a friend. And so we don't trust each other. And because I think we think of white supremacy as a set of beliefs and not think about the values aspect of whiteness, it's really hard for us to deconstruct why we treat each other that way. And I think it's really hard for us to actually build a true sisterhood community that's not just based on, like, support all women except for the ones I don't like. And the thing about it is, one last thing, I don't want to ramble too much, but the one last thing about it is that hierarchy exists, that value system exists everywhere. You can see it in small Southern white women church community, and you can also see it in white women-coded, well, I mean, white men do it too, but you can also see that hierarchy in white leftist spaces, progressive blue leftist spaces. It's pervasive and it's harmful. And I think it's something that we really need to talk about deconstructing in terms of how we interact with each other. So that's my take. Let me know what you think. Hello. So, I'm probably only going to do like a couple of videos and then I'm going to take the weekend because family stuff. And also, oh my God, like, this is chaos. But I didn't want to lose this comment. And it says, so for many white women, there's truly no safe space and they double down on anger and hate. We are listening to understand. First of all, I really want to acknowledge and appreciate the generosity of spirit behind this comment. Thank you. Also, let's talk about, yes, you're correct. Let's talk about white women trauma, because this is something I think about a lot. White women trauma is very difficult to explain in the context of humans. So I'm going to explain it in the context of something else. And this isn't intended to be dismissive. This is just the best way I found, the closest thing I found to be able to explain why white women sometimes are the way they are. Let's talk about small dogs. So dog trainers will tell you that small dogs are not inherently nasty, bitey, awful little gremlins. That behavior is generally a way indicative of the way that the dog has been raised or treated. And the reason that happens for small dogs is because people don't treat them as dogs. They treat them as toys or accessories, comfort objects, right? And so when you're a small dog, on the one hand, like, your life's amazing, right? Like, nobody's like putting you out in the yard all day and all night. You get all the food you want, you get soft beds, you get constant attention, you get carried everywhere, but also you get carried everywhere. So it turns out that when you don't treat a dog like a dog, when you don't let a dog be a dog and do things like sniff and explore and go on dog adventures and do dog things, that you get a very, very insecure dog, because they're not allowed to do, they're prevented from doing the things that would let them build confidence. The other factor for small dogs, as I understand it, is that their autonomy is constantly being violated. So when you go to pet like a Doberman or a German Shepherd and they growl at you, then if you're a smart person, you don't pet the Doberman or the German Shepherd. If you go to pet a Chihuahua and it growls at you, you don't have to pay any attention to that. You should, but you don't have to, right? And a lot of people think small dog aggression is cute, right? So imagine being a creature who, like, isn't treated like an autonomous being, but is constantly, like, being told that their anger and distress signals are cute, and constantly being held and petted, and when they don't want to be. There's also no consequences for small dog anger, because people don't take it seriously. So what that does is it makes for like a very insecure, fearful, aggressive little dog. And that kind of upbringing also makes for an insecure, fearful, aggressive white woman. And that's the closest way I have to explain that. It's also worth noting that there are no safe spaces in whiteness in general. That's not really what whiteness is for. Safety is one of the things that whiteness and white supremacy hold over us to make us do what it wants. You have to do this to get safety. You have to do that to get safety. But that safety is always contingent on performance. And so, because it's another method of control. So the answer to your question is no. White people in general and white women in specific do not generally have truly safe spaces unless we've deconstructed and like managed to carve them out for ourselves. But that's very, very difficult. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so this question was left on the video I did about white women trauma and the analogy I used of small dogs and the way that they are both coddled and mistreated and how it makes them like very insecure and fearful and aggressive. So if you want to go context for that, you can go watch. I do want to kind of expand on that just a second. I had a few people in the comments wanting to clarify with me that when I said that there is no consequences for small dog anger, that I meant there was no consequences to the dog, and you are absolutely correct. There are and can be serious consequences to small dog aggression, just not to the dog. Any dog bite can get infected. Small dogs have taken off like bits of fingers before. This is not a benign anger. As much as it's dismissed and kind of ignored by the owners and by other people who don't understand dogs, it is not a benign anger. The other consequences, one of the other consequences that someone pointed out in my comment section is that larger dogs, especially dogs like Rottweilers and Pit Bulls, are often labeled aggressive solely for the way that they react to being like attacked by an angry small dog. So, you can apply that metaphor as you wish. But this question says, how do we deconstruct and move away from the small dog patterns? Well, unfortunately, that's where the analogy breaks down because, we can't really hire trainers to work with us every day and make sure that we're not like neurotic. That would be so funny. We have to retrain ourselves, and it is our responsibility to retrain ourselves. We may not have done this to ourselves initially, but that does not mean that it is not our job to make sure that what was done to us does not cause harm to the people around us. It's a lot like reparenting yourself. I'm the child of emotionally immature parents. My parents loved me, but there were definite issues, and I had to learn to reparent myself so that I didn't pass that on to my kid. And in a similar way, I think anyone who identifies with this particular trauma, I think we just have to retrain ourselves, put ourselves in situations that we're not comfortable with. Kind of keep an eye out for our own reactive behavior and our own instinct to lash out and our own fear and recognize when that is happening. Learn to regulate our own emotions. And that's really hard, especially since, as we've discussed, a lot of women don't have anybody that they trust to be a safe space for them to do that. But it is our responsibility to do that. And it is something, and there's really no way around it. So Unfortunately, that's kind of sucks, but that's how it is. If anyone wants to discuss in the comments like concrete ways to do it, I find therapy to be helpful. But we're open to suggestions. Fuck it, it's late. I got one more video in me. Let's go. So this was left on my video about why white women are mean to each other, in which I talk about the whiteness cultural value of hierarchy and how that works, in my opinion. And one of the illustrations I used for redirected anger was a white woman gets yelled at by her boss. She goes home and yells at her kids because she can't yell at the person higher on the ladder than her. She has to yell at the people lower on the ladder. This question says, what if the black woman is her boss? At that point, the black woman is higher than the white woman. You would think. But no. So let's talk about conformity. Conformity is another, in my opinion, fundamental value of whiteness. And by conformity, I don't mean everyone trying to be the same as everyone else. I mean, everyone is trying to conform to an ideal that sits at top of the hierarchy ladder. At the national level, the ideal is rich, landowning white men, right? They build the country, they build it for themselves. That's the cultural ideal. It is what it is. But there are lots of different ladders and lots of different ideals, and they all look very different, depending on where you're from and who you are. But there is one thing about every ladder that is the same, and that is the ideal at the top is white something. Okay? Whiteness, it will not surprise you to learn that the whiteness cultural value of hierarchy and conformity put whiteness at the top of the ladder. So in business, as in this example, let's talk about this example, the ideal is successful white business bro, right? And there's a lot of things that go into that depending on the business, but business is very based on conformity, right? So they call it professionalism and cultural fit. So the top of that hierarchy ladder is white male business bro, successful white male business bro. And the closer you can get to that, the more options you have in the country. So let's imagine for a second that we are a white woman in this system. Now, you are good at your job. You know you're good at your job because white men have been promoted over you for being a better cultural fit. So you know you're good at your job because white men have been promoted over you despite not being as good as you are. So you've also internalized very deeply this hierarchical conformity mindset. And so you're also trying to conform while being good at your job as hard as you possibly can. And we can talk about kind of like what whiteness does to white women and that specific weird little trauma thing later. But there's like, you have to be aggressive, but not too aggressive. You have to be confident, but not too confident. Attractive, but not too attractive. You have to like dress nicely, but not like too nicely. Like you have to be confident and subservient at the same time, which is a mind fuck. Anyway, so you're a white woman. You're in the system. You're conforming as hard as you can. You're working as hard as you can, and a position opens up, and they hire from the outside or even from the inside an incredibly qualified black woman. And now you're pissed. Now, if you're racist and you're fine with that, you know why you're pissed. You're like, taking my jobs. I deserve the job because I am white, obviously. If you are the kind of white woman who is trying not to be racist, but you haven't unpacked that like foundational value system, you are not going to like be able to admit to yourself that that's why you're mad. Because in your head, you're like, well, obviously, like, she doesn't deserve the job less because she's black. That's stupid. I don't think that. But in your core, where the foundational value system is, you know that conformity system has whiteness at its heart. But it's not just that. It's also because because Black women are locked out of the conformity-based system of advancement, and they generally come in because they are qualified, a lot of times that means that the Black woman will be more confident than the white woman feels like she's allowed to be, more settled and like sure of herself than the white woman feels like she's allowed to be. She'll a lot of times move in situations with more assurance than the white woman feels like she's allowed to have. And that I know is also a tightrope for Black women, because it's, you know, everything you do is viewed out of proportion, and it's very easy to get the angry label and the aggressive label, because you don't get the benefit of the doubt in that situation that a white woman might get. But from the white woman's perspective, the Black woman has come in and not only gotten the job and not fit the whiteness piece, but gotten the job and not fit the other conformity pieces that the white woman was trying to do. And that, if you're a white woman who hasn't unpacked all that shit, feels incredibly unfair. And then white women freak out because now you have somebody over you who's also beneath you in your, like, but like, you should be allowed to be angry at this person, but you're not allowed to be angry at this person. And then white women's brains fritz out and they kind of lose their shit. So that's what happens in a lot of cases. And I'd love to unpack that more if you guys have any more questions, but it's kind of late. So hopefully that made sense. It's nighttime. So I agree with this comment, 100%. But I am going to use it as a jumping off point to clarify some stuff. So I have a fair amount of white women in the comments in my previous video, which was about why white women don't trust each other and how we carry the values of whiteness and the hierarchy, specifically the hierarchy of whiteness, with us wherever we go. I have a lot of women in my, white women specifically in my comment section, that are saying, well, talking about male validation and saying, well, it's because of patriarchy, the hierarchy is patriarchy, and we need to decenter men. And this is an example of a trap I think a lot of specifically progressive white people fall into. And that's confusing belief and the value system of whiteness. And what I mean by that is that if you are trained to think in terms of hierarchy, to think in terms of conformity, to think in terms of punishment, which are some of the kind of foundational things of whiteness, then you will recreate that system no matter what, and no matter where, stop it, no matter where you go. And so you could be the staunchest feminist that's ever feminist and completely decenter men, and you could still recreate a toxic hierarchy based on a different set of ideals and conformity to those ideals. And a lot of people do, okay? That happens a lot. And so I really think we need to have a conversation about the difference between kind of our underlying value system or foundation that we as white people are taught and the way we move through the world, and how that doesn't really have a lot to do with our belief systems, because I think we confuse one for the other, and then we end up sort of perpetuating those problems. Also, this is Kona. He is rude. He is a rude old cat. Kona, say hello. Rude old cat. And let me know if you have any other questions. I'm late to this comment, but yes. Okay. It says hierarchical value system equals personal value system that ranks assigned value to people based on something. Patriarchy would be a rank on the system, not the hierarchical system itself. See, this is what I'm saying. So, like, think of it like, for my fellow white women, people wasting the white room box, think of it like you are an automaton. I like to think of myself as one of those like really older one, those older cool ones that they have in museums that are like way older than you think they would be, but still look really cool. Anyway, you're an automaton, right? You're full of gears, and when someone pulls a lever, you act a certain way. And I think for a lot of us, we're like, well, I don't want to act that way anymore, so I'm going to take off the lever. Right, I'm going to take the lever of racism, the lever of patriarchy, the lever of classism. I'm gonna uninstall the lever, right? But you haven't uninstalled the system that the lever activates. So if someone comes along and plugs in a different lever and activates it, you're in danger of acting the same way. So what I really want to kind of encourage is the analyzation of the systems that get activated when someone pulls that lever, whatever that lever is. And so the solution is definitely, like, at this point, I think the solution is definitely deeper than patriarchy. It's deeper than racism. It's deeper, or the problem, I should say, is deeper than patriarchy. It's deeper than racism. It's deeper than classism. It's deeper than these things that we have all been trying to deconstruct so much. It's part of the essential system of how we move through the world. And as long as we don't deactivate that system, someone can come along and reinstall a lever and pull it, and we'll do the same patterns. Does that make sense? Hello. So first off, thank you for all the respectful, this is Jules, the respectful discussion and open discussion in my comment section. I'm really happy about, it's not dinner time yet. Dog, what do you my hand for? It's an hour until dinner. What is your problem? Anyway, we starve her. She's very badly used. Anyway, so I just wanted to make a quick video and say thank you for the discussion I've been seeing, but also, like, I want to kind of lay out just briefly before I go on a break for a couple of days. I want to lay out what I think are kind of these values of whiteness, and that what I've come up with so far, so that the discussion can continue. And then I'll come back on Monday, hopefully, and be able to make some more videos. But I need to pace myself, and I have family stuff. So the values of whiteness, and again, we're talking about these as distinct from belief, right? These are values that you can carry with you into any belief system. So whether you're conservative, progressive, leftist, liberal, alt-right, whether you're, town, country, city, whatever. You can carry these values with you. And so far I've come up with the values of whiteness are hierarchy, conformity to ideal, punitive justice, competition, group purity, and group reputation. And those are things that I think white people are taught to value to such an extent that it really hinders our ability to work against the status quo, because these values are designed to render us powerless and isolated. So that's where I'm at. And I want to come back and talk about that more, but I do need to take a break because my nervous system thinks going viral is the same thing as being stalked by a tiger. So I will be back next week, but please continue your awesome conversations, and I'll see you later. Okay, also real quick, it was pointed out to me that I don't have stitches on my recent videos. I have fixed that. Hopefully that will be a good thing. I just really want there to be a way for people to have wider conversations on that. So if you wanted to stitch one of my more recent videos, those should be on now. Anyway, toodaloo.